be scared, be worried, because they will make Stellar Blade gay. And what do I mean by that? I mean by the fans themselves that have rejected this game upon its initial release. From the vitriol from games journalists over their hatred of the attractiveness of the female character Eve, to the backlash from consultancy firms that deem it unnecessary to make games solely focus on attracting the male audience. Which is kind of odd since the majority of gamers are male. But then again, it's not about profitability to the people that are raging against Stellar Blade. It's about politics and social progressive perspectives being implemented in entertainment to push an ideology. And that ideology is very anti-masculine. And you see this messaging in an assortment of games that have come out. You see it in the Uncharted series. You see it in Spider-Man. You see it in Last of Us 2. It's just every single game has this message being delivered that a lot of people are just accepting because this is the only thing they know. And I think that is eventually the case that we're seeing nowadays in the video game industry. This anti-masculine message that is driving away the fan base, which is why Stellar Blade Eve is the opposite of everything they want to see in gaming. And now that this game is #1 topping the charts all over the world, #1 in Japan for 3 weeks in a row, and still carrying that moniker of being the #1 PS5 selling game this past month, it's showing their values are not valued, which is making Stellar Blade a tremendous win for gamers for now. And this is why I go back to the main topic of this video. Since you can't beat them, join them. And I think with Stellar Blade's Eve, they're gonna make her join them. And that's why I say they will make her gay. And I know it sounds absurd to say this, but this is how the industry works nowadays. If you can't manipulate a gaming audience or overall fan base to do something you want them to do, you join them. And I think that's what we're seeing with games journalists and the fan bases who are extremely against the success of Stellar Blade. Now that they know it's a success, they have to convert it into something they can claim as their own. And we've seen this happen with multiple other titles. So seeing them transition this overly attractive woman to something that they claim as their own is a process we've seen occur multiple times beforehand. You just have to look at previous examples of female characters that they criticize that churned into gay icons. And you can see this with Nier Automata and Bayonetta. These two are once highly criticized characters that were lambasted by games journalists and the gaming tourist fan base for being overly sexualized and attracting the male gaze to an excessive degree. But now those are gay icons, LGBTQ icons, because they stake their claim on the characters, whether it's through fan art or constant harassment of the creators of these games. They just inundated these fan pools and Reddit pages with their own perspective on these characters. And I think eventually we're going to see the same thing with Eve. And you can see this controversy even stretch out to some of the art that is being made in Japan of some of these characters, where Bayonetta has a family and they're angered at that concept that she has a family because she's supposed to be a part of that LGBTQ headcanon of her being the eternal lesbian that is on their side. And the same could be said for Nier Automata with 2B, where there's so much fan art and pages dedicated to the headcanon of LGBTQ relationships, where it's just now the fan base itself in general, when it's on forums and online, are dedicated to this thought process. And I think that's what we're seeing even in the games journalist space, where they're taking these concepts from these Reddit pages and forums and making articles and pleading cases that this is the reality of the game. And I think that is what we're seeing within the gaming spaces. When you can't control something, you conquer it. And I think we saw all the criticisms that both of these games and characters got with their initial release, where we had Anita Scarsheesian making multiple videos decrying Bayonetta being a game that's overly catering to the male gaze and is destroying feminism in some sort of way. And you saw the same thing with Nier Automata. But now the roles have changed because these are massively successful franchises and people are playing it. So we have to gain control of those franchises and turn them into something that caters to our interests and political agenda. And that's what we're seeing with these two franchises, even though they're not completely controlled because they're outside of the country in Japan. But these are properties that are being almost manipulated by the imaginary fan bases in forums and Reddit. And I think this is the thing that is influencing the gaming industry. These fan bases that are controlled by bots and games journalists that have an agenda to mold these industries into into something that is not for the gamers but for their own political agenda. And when I say they're using bots to drive up traffic for these ideas, that is clearly the situation, at least for advertisement, for some of these non-successful properties that they are putting out. And I can see them using those same bots to perpetuate ideas that these characters are one way or the other, just for fans to push that idea and agenda out there. So it's not so far-fetched for me to think that fan bases will use these same bots to drive traffic for their ideas of what characters should and should not be within a gaming fan base. I can see journalists doing the same thing, and this is the thing that I'm saying that is going to happen to Stellar Blade as well. It's going to be driven by an ideological push towards a certain direction, and that direction is not going to go in the current fan base's favor. So having success is all good and all with Stellar Blade, but gatekeeping that success is more critical to the success of this overall franchise in the future. If you don't gatekeep it from these thought processes that are invading the video gaming space, it's just going to turn into another franchise with another political agenda attacking it, and maybe even taking it over. So yes, they will make her gay because that's how you win after you lost. Stellar Blade is a massive success, that's undeniable. It's charting all across the world, every country is supporting it, and it's changing the mind of Sony itself of whether it should proceed with the way it handles future games. Of course, it was censored a little bit today, but maybe they see this as a progressive step towards making similar games, and that is a death blow to the franchise, to the people that are against Stellar Blade. And the only way you can grab victory out of the jaws of defeat is making Stellar Blade your type of game. And now that's where we get into the influence of the overall company that developed Stellar Blade. Shift Up is a Korean company that just went public, and of course, once you're public, you're open to investor influence, and that is another point of view where we can see them being purchased or influenced by investment bankers that have these DEI policies that have put tremendous power in consultancy firms like Sweet Baby Inc. And now that this company is open to public financing, we can see this as a route of influence. So I see this as a multi-pronged step where Stellar Blade is going to be under attack now, and it's up to fans to gatekeep it in such a way where it's not influenced by the rabid fan base that want to churn it into its own political agenda, and the financial groups that may want to grab hold of it and maybe push that agenda as well. And when you put these two factors together, it becomes pretty clear there is a cultural war happening here, whether it's through the financial systems or whether it's through the fan bases that are collectively trying to mold the franchises that they want to have control over. And I think this is the situation with Stellar Blade. Stellar Blade is a cultural war standpoint where the previous victors have lost and now are trying to gain footing again. And I think the best way to gain footing is to imply this character is already canonically gay, and you can have that conversation already. So this is kind of a situation where they have an upper hand of gaining control of this IP, and I think it's just interesting to see what will happen with this brand of Stellar Blade in the future. Will it succumb to these outside influences, or will Korea stand up and make something unique that the game players are going to stand by, and will resist the political machinations of this cultural war in the Western development sphere? But anyways, you tell me what you think about the situation. I might be completely wrong. Maybe I'm just overzealous and paranoid about the video game industry, but you leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.